Welcome. Thanks for joining me for the 2012 Michigan Public School Employee Retirement System. The one thing that we want to make sure that you know before we begin is if you have any questions, don't hesitate to punch that into your computer so I can answer it immediately. And with that being said, let's begin. So here we go. There's a retirement dilemma in the state of Michigan. An average educator with 30 years of service is going to take a 55% pay cut. So you can take your salary on the left, trade that for the one on the right, and that's what we can expect with 30 years of service. So if I'm making $100,000 a year and I have 30 years of service, my pension is going to be $45,000. Now everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different. How much money we make, how many years of service we have. That's why it's very important we click that button on the bottom of your screen that says more information so we can have an expert call you and tell you exactly what your pension income is going to be. Now if we're married, that 55% pay cut gets a little bit worse because by law we have to name our spouse the beneficiary as a beneficiary to our pension. What that basically means is this. The state's going to say, okay, we're going to give you some money. Now when something happens to you, when you die, no one's going to get your money, all right? It goes with you. Well, if I'm married, that's not really an option. I want to make sure that my spouse has my medical and my pension for the rest of their life. And that's where you see here 100% survivor, 75% survivor, and 50% survivor. And what that's doing is we're giving up a piece of our pension to make sure if anything were to ever happen to me, my spouse is going to get 100% of it, 75% of it, 50% of it for the rest of their life, along with all of our medical. Now your spouse's date of birth is important. So when you click that button that says more information, our expert's going to be able to tell you exactly what your payout options are under the state of Michigan. And there's so many more options on top of that. And I know that you can get this information on a website, asking a friend. There's a lot of different information out there. But this is what we specialize in, and we want to make sure we're giving you the right information. For instance, are you married to another educator? Well, if you are, there's other options that you don't see here. There's other options that the state of Michigan might not tell you. And that's what we want to make sure we're telling our experts when you click that button and they call you for an appointment. So there's different retirement systems in the state of Michigan. Currently, the most common one that we see is MIP, the MIP plan, Member Investment Plan. But there's others. So let's discuss the options, okay? And let's discuss what each one is all about. Our pension plan is going to tell us when we're eligible to retire and how our pensions are calculated. So for MIP, we know that our pensions are going to be calculated by taking our 3 highest consecutive years of service. Now, I didn't say your 3 last years. I said your 3 highest years. What if you were an administrator in your 20s and 30s and then finished out your career in the classroom? Well, if those administration years were higher than your classroom years, that's what the state's going to use when calculating your pension. So it's your 3 highest consecutive years of service. In basic, it's our 5 highest consecutive years of service. In MIP, we know that we can retire with 30 years of service as early as age 46. In basic, still we have that 30-year requirement, but we have an age requirement on top of that, which is age 55. So we have 30 years of service at age 46 or 30 years of service at age 55. Now, if you don't have 30 years of service, that's okay. You can also retire with full benefits at the age of 60. But wouldn't you think it's going to be helpful to know exactly when you're eligible to retire and exactly what your pension is going to be? That's why you need to check that button and have an expert call you so they can tell you the minute you're eligible to retire, and you will know exactly what you can expect from the state retirement system. Now, if we are in MIP, there's one other really nice benefit, part of the reason why we're paying in every 2 weeks. It's called the cost of living adjustment, also known as COLA. Your pension is going to go up every single year for the rest of your life. It's 3% non-compounded based on your first year's pension. So let's say my first year's pension is going to be $30,000. The state's going to increase my pension by 3% of that every single year for the rest of my life. So my pension is going to go up $900 a year for the rest of my life. Now, you may have heard some old timers say, God, it's costing me so much money to go to work every day. What they mean by that is this. They keep putting money in and putting money in and putting money in and putting money in. And they're never going to live long enough to pay themselves back everything they put into the system. So don't you think it would be helpful to have someone tell you exactly, financially speaking, when it's your time to go, when it's your time to retire, when you can start getting paid by the state, and instead of you working for them, they start working for you? Well, that's what we're all about. So check that button that says more information so we can have an expert give you that information. Now, Basic doesn't have that 3% cost of living adjustment. They have something called the 13th check. Now, what the 13th check is, if there's extra money left over at the end of the year, everyone in the Basic plan is going to get an extra check. We haven't seen it happen yet, but keep your fingers crossed. MIP Plus, also known as Pension Plus. Now, this is going to apply to only those educators that came into education after July 1 of 2010. And when I say after July 1, 2010, who's never received a paycheck before July 1, 2010. Their retirement system's a little bit different. That's called the MIP Plus plan, or you might also know it as the Pension Plus plan. This is going to tell us a few different things. The first is, when are we eligible to retire? Well, if I'm in MIP Plus, I have to work through my 60th birthday. So I have to work until I'm 60 years old, and I need at least 10 years of service. Number two, my pension is going to be calculated by taking my 5 highest consecutive years of service. Not my 3 highest, my 5 highest. And lastly, I do not have that 3% cost of living adjustment. So the MIP Plus plan resembles a lot of the Basic plan, okay? But instead of being able to retire at age 55, if we're in MIP Plus, we have to work through our 60th birthday. Now, there's also a defined contribution portion, and that's where automatically 2% of your paycheck is going to a retirement plan for you. It's called a defined contribution plan. And then what's really nice of that is that your employer matches 50% of your contributions up to 1%. Now you're automatically enrolled in this. Now you can opt out. However, it's not always in your best interest. And the best way to find out if something is in your best interest is asking an expert. Check that button that says more information so we can have an expert contact you to tell you if that's something that's going to be in your best interest. Now, the investments are pooled and will earn an interest rate between 0 and 7%. So we're not exactly sure what we're earning, and we're not exactly sure how it's invested, but any kind of money for your future is always a good thing. But you do have options, and when we have options, we want to make sure we have the right answers for those options. Last but not least, there's a 4-year vesting schedule for employer contributions. So if for some reason public education just isn't right for you, if you have 4 years, all that money you put in plus the employer's money, after 4 years, you are vested with your contributions and your employer contributions. So if for some reason public education just isn't for you, I understand. We all understand. We've all been there. But what's nice is you get to keep all of that money. Now, if you don't have 4 years and you decide that public education isn't right for you, the money that you put in is still yours, but the employer portion will go back to the employer. Retiree health care. Now, I know you guys know all about this. There's tons of rumors out here. This is the 3% health care trust that went into law as of July 1, 2010. The first thing I want to say before we go any further is the 3% that you see on all of your paychecks is pre-tax dollars. So if you see $98 coming out of your check, it's not really $98. You only feel, I don't know, maybe $70 of that. Okay, that's the first thing I want to mention. Now the 3% healthcare trust, I know there's been lots of rumors. The judge said this, the judge said this, there's this lawsuit and that lawsuit. All I can really tell you is this. It's not going away until you see it off your check. So regardless of all the rumors that you hear, these are the important things to know. Number one, it's pre-tax, and number two, it does not guarantee health benefits in the future for retirees. So there's no guarantee of health care benefits, and it's pre-tax dollars. Those are the two very important things that you need to realize. And it's even more important that if we know that our health care is not guaranteed, we need to make sure that we have steps in place while we're working, just in case that happens when we're retired. Make sure you talk to your expert about that. So click the button on the bottom of the page. Now it's time to talk about buying years of service. I'm sure you guys all remember your very first day of school. All the other teachers came up to you and said, do two things. Start your 403Bs and buy your years of service. Well, let's get the bad news out of the way first. If we're in MIP Plus or if we're in Pension Plus, you cannot buy years of service. So no matter what anyone tells you, if you're in MIP Plus or Pension Plus, you can't buy your years. But just to be on the safe side, in case you don't know what plan that you're in, when you click that button and an expert calls you, they'll be able to tell you exactly what plan you're in. Now, buying years of service has changed so much over the years that I could spend an hour just talking about buying years of service. Does it make sense? Can I do it? How much does it cost me? How many years can I buy? Well, the first thing I want to tell you is that there's really two reasons to buy years of service. Number one, it allows us to be able to retire earlier. So if I work 25 years, I bought my 5 years, the state of Michigan thinks I have 30, and I'm good to go. So that's more the emotional reason. I can't take it anymore. I don't want to work 30 years. I need to buy years. There's also an economic reason to buy years of service, and that is the more years of service you have, that will increase your pension. Your pension is calculated by taking your final average compensation, that's either our 3 or 5 highest years of service, times 1.5% times our years of service. Now, most of us I know have already bought our years of service. Now, they may not be paid for, but I know that we're in the process of paying for them. There's a lot of things that you need to know before you jump into a contract with the state of Michigan to buy your years. Because once you start that contract, you can't stop it. So I want all of you, if you haven't bought years of service yet and are considering it, to click that button and let our experts tell you if it's in your best interest to do so or not. Now our next slide talks about Social Security. This is a roadmap. I don't discuss Social Security in too much detail. That's what our experts are for. Our experts will sit down with you at school or at home and go over this information with you, exactly what you can expect based on your age. But what you can take away from this is, when am I eligible as of today for my full Social Security, and what would my reduction be if I took it at age 62? So if I was born in 1950, I'm eligible for my full Social Security at 66 years and 2 months old. If I decide to take it early at 62, which right now we're all eligible to take it at 62, I'm going to see about a 25% reduction in my Social Security benefit. Does it make sense for me to take it at 62? What about 63? 65? 66? That's what our experts are here to help you with. You don't need to make the tough decisions. Let us help you make the tough decisions for you. Click that button. Now I know up to this point there's been a lot of doom and gloom. I'm going to take this massive pay cut. On top of that, I have to give part of it to my spouse. I haven't bought years of service. Can I buy years of service? When can I retire? I have to work until I'm 60. There's been all this information. But here's the good news. Now I get to show you how we solve the problem. And what the problem is, if you remember, the average educator with 30 years of service is going to take a 55% pay cut. And that's the problem. So, how do we solve it? Well, we can keep working for the rest of our lives. I don't think any of us want to do that. Never retire. Decrease our standard of living. I know that when I want to retire, I don't want to decrease my lifestyle. Win the lottery? Not a bad option. May not be statistically possible, but always an option. But ultimately, we know that the best way to solve the problem is to save our money. So we agree that saving money is going to be the way that we lower that pay cut. But how do we save money? Well, all of you have two options. You have your traditional savings and your qualified savings. Well, let's understand the difference. With our traditional savings, for banks and our credit unions, putting money under the mattress, right? We take $200, we go to the bank, we give it to them, and they give us a credit in our accounts for $200. Sounds kind of boring to me. But all of you can take that same $200 and put it into your TSAs, your teacher savings account. And every time you put in $200, you get a credit for $300. But why? Because it's pre-tax dollars. Instead of sending that $100 to Uncle Sam every 2 weeks, you get to put it into your pocket, save it, earn interest on it, and use it for your retirement later. I know that if someone came up to me and said, hey, give me $200 and I'll give you $300 in return, I would do it all day long as I possibly can. This is what you guys need to be doing. Every time you put in $200, you're going to get a credit for $300. Sounds a lot better than $200 for $200. Wouldn't you agree? I would. Click that button so we can have our experts show you how you can get the maximum advantage out of your TSAs. Now, if you're starting to doze off, it's time to wake up. This is the most important thing I'm going to go over with you. Steps to a successful retirement, and it all starts with knowing what our Mpsers calculations are. When we're eligible to retire and how our pension is going to be calculated. Ask any educator that retired. If they would have known years ago what they were going to be in for, would that have been helpful to know? And I'm sure they're all going to say yes. And that's what we need to show you. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. We'll come, sit with you at your home, at your school, at a coffee shop, and show you. This is what your pension is going to be at any age you want to see it. This is how much your pension is going to be. This is when you're eligible to retire. All of your options free and provided to you. We are your ticket for as long as you want to use us. But you can't go any further until we know what your Mpsers calculations are going to be. Number 2, creating an exit plan and strategy. Well, how can we have a plan or a strategy? And how can you have a strategy without knowing what our problem is going to be? We need to diagnose your problem. Now, hopefully all of you are saving money. I'd rather you be saving some things than saving nothing. But we want to make sure that what we're doing is going to help us retire with financial independence. Being able to retire on your terms, not the state's. Proper contribution level. Now, I'm sure we've all heard it. I know I have. My financial advisor said I should be getting 10%. Mine said 15%. Mine said 20%. The market went up. The market went down. Let's put all that to bed right now and concentrate on the only thing that's really important, contribution level. It's the only thing that we can control. It's just like life. The more we put into it, the more we take out of it. You put in a little, you'll take out a little. You put in a lot, you'll take out a lot. It's the only thing that we can control, and you should never take it for granted. Don't be sold a rate of return. Concentrate on what's affordable and put that money away, and let us help you show you how. Proper asset allocation. Now, I do tons and tons and tons of these every single year, and it never fails. I'll meet with someone who says, no, I'm really conservative, and I'll look at their investments and see that they're really aggressive. Or they'll tell me that they're super aggressive, and I'll look at their investments and they're really conservative. We want to practice what we preach. We tell our kids, don't keep all our eggs in one basket. I'm telling you, don't keep all your eggs in one basket. We want to make sure we're allocated properly. If we're allocated properly, then guess what? In good times, we're doing good. In bad times, we're doing good. Click that button so we can make sure you're allocated properly. And remember, it doesn't cost you anything. It's a free service that we offer to you. Implementation of a plan. Let's make sure we have something. It's never too late. It's never too early. I don't care if you're retiring next week, next month, or 20 years from now, or 40 years from now. We need to have some kind of a plan in place. Let us help you and show you how. And annual monitorings and adjustments. Well, my friends, this is by far the most important. And this is the one that I hear about the most. How long has it been since you've seen your financial advisor? Well, I haven't seen him since he signed me up. I haven't seen him since he signed me up. Well, I signed up 10 years ago, and every single year I get someone new. It's the same old story, and that's not good. Everything changes. You get married. You get divorced. You have kids. You get a pay increase. You get a pay decrease. As things change in your life, so do your investments. If your advisors aren't calling you, that's not your fault. That's their fault. This is a customer service business, and we want to make sure that you have up-to-date information, up-to-date knowledge, and that we are doing what's in your best interest as your life changes. So if we're not seeing our people at least once a year, they're doing you a major, major disservice. So click that button, fill out the information sheet, let an expert call you and make sure that you know what your Mpsers calculations are. You have the right plan and strategy for you. You are doing what's affordable and not worrying about the market. You have your money allocated properly. You have a plan, and most important, you have someone that you can trust and call 24 hours a day that's going to be there for you. Well, I thank you for joining. Don't forget to fill out those information sheets, and we'll be seeing you soon. Thanks a lot.